Hey yo, what it did, y'all? New here, no name. Nice to meet you. And if you ain't new here, it was really good. Let's get into it. I got a little mini series to kick off for y'all because I'm seeing a lot of questions about like making money, upgrading characters, all this stuff around it, which is either surrounded around, one, players being new to Torchlight, which welcome to Torchlight if you're new. And two, more importantly, the fact that there is this little pet attached to killing Traveler 8 for the first time this season. And that's a new thing added this season that will be going with us forward into future seasons, which means that this information will be very useful going forward as well as right now. I felt the need to make a couple videos talking about how to really like get yourself over that wall. It's for a lot of people, from what I've gathered, Traveler 8 and beyond is kind of the wall where like a season has stopped for them, even people who have been playing for like 2 to 3 seasons at this point. So I have a couple farms here that work without their associated pets, mind you. Obviously, with their associated pets, they get better, but there's nothing you can do about that. That's fretting about something that's not worth losing your mind over, right? These farms do work without their pets, have been tested. In fact, some of these farms are pet farms that I don't even have the pets for. So they work just fine. They are things that I use in my progression that I actively recommend to people who need things for progression. And I will have some of these codes, not all codes for everything here in the description, because that's a lot of winding keys. And right now I'm currently using my money on something more specific. But I did make sure to make a couple of these codes for you guys to be able to copy directly out of the description, or otherwise just use a little bit of context clues and maybe find a quick loot link in like pro builds to see if you can find something for those. All that said, let's get into it. Now, before I can actually talk about the various time marks and specific strategies, I want to talk about Outlaw in particular, this current season's mechanic, and whether or not you should be running, because I know people have asked a little bit about whether or not you should or shouldn't. Is it worth skipping? Blah, 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 blah. Yes and no. The short answer is I wouldn't really touch it in Timemark 7 outside of maybe if a bounty procs. You just aren't rolling enough. There's just not enough drops in 7s to be worth the extreme amount of time spent in those maps. And in 7s, you're not super incentivized to roll your maps either. But in 8s, especially once you're like actually farming 8 or 8-1, you're going to be incentivized to actually roll your map. And that's going to really like lean into the value that Carjack can bring to you. And vaults are always worthwhile if you can actually run and clear them in full, because they do give a good stipend of FE, and they keep buffing them and making them less intolerable to run. So good. In fact, actually, the morning I'm recording this, I saw another buff to it. So yes, run the vault. Quick annoying plug to, subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you actually know when we post more stuff, especially the remainder of the series, right? 2 more videos in this series that I mentioned earlier. Subscribe notifications when those are coming, support the channel. And while you're at it, you might as well go follow me on Twitch. Really trying to run that number up. We're almost at a funny number, 690, which is my current goal. And then we're going to be shooting for, headed towards 1,000. Be really awesome. Thanks you guys so much for all the support so far, by the way, especially the extreme explosion of support the past week or so between the Yuga video and the Eternity video. Very appreciative of you guys. Anyways, back to the video. All right, Timemark 7. This is not a sexy section. I'm just gonna be real with you. When you're in Timemark section 7, you're kind of just nose to the grindstone, trying to get out as fast as possible, because the more interesting strategies in the game will start to open up once you get to 8, and quant scales your map, I would say, better. Technically, obviously, the best scaling is in deep space, and you really want that profound scaling even. But starting at 8, you can start to get into the interesting things. In 7s, on the other hand, you just don't drop a lot of raw loot that's worth a whole lot. So we look for fixed drops, things that drop no matter what level of content you're doing, because it has to. And so 2 major strategies come to mind. Black Sale, boss rushing. I'll talk about Black Sale first. Black Sale, you are farming primarily memory scraps. Threads and memories at this level are not worth anything because they're both purple instead of yellow. This is a very important distinction, by the way. Yellow is really like where Black Sale turns on. So I'll mention this again in Timemark 8, but I want to put it here in 7 as well, because memory scraps and boss invites being farmed in 7 still contribute a decent bit of FE, and you don't need a lot of money to get out of the hole, like get through Traveler 7, right? You're only trying to cross 100 or so million DPS and then blow up the boss and start thinking about getting yourself ready, getting yourself comfortable in Timemark 8. So Black Sale's pretty good there. The other option, the one that I'm much more partial to, is boss rushing. Just a generic boss rushing with no black sail. And this has to be stated because you don't have enough points at this point in the game to realistically spec well into both without using compasses. And I don't think compasses are worth using at their current prices in Timemark 7. So, Resonance, you're looking for things that are fixed drops. Again, just like black sail, but this time found by killing things in your map. Resonance Eyes, Winding Keys, Netherrealm Resonance, Embers. All four of these things are things that are dropped off of fixed or dropped in fixed quantities off of bosses or other things that are easy to spawn in your map and provide high value throughout the entire game, right? Everyone wants activation mediums, therefore Resonance Eyes maintain their value. Winding Keys, everyone needs to respect their atlas, therefore they maintain value. Netherrealm Resonance, it actually costs more Netherrealm Resonance to do higher tier strategies than lower tier strategies, especially if you're in deep space and you're spending 64 Resonance to re-roll a map, right? So higher value up there, but not worth farming for up there because it's the same, it's a fixed drop quantity. Embers. While there are plenty of other ways to also farm embers, being able to farm embers off bosses is just really comfortable in your own progression. So, and you can sell them off if you need a little bit extra change. So, huge fan there. Honorable mentions in this category, by the way, include snowpaper fragments, eternal reverberations, and compasses. Snowpaper fragments were the previous way of really bigly doing this. However, snowpaper fragments are extremely cheap right now because this season the stocks on canvas are just pretty low. I think it's kind of unfounded, but hey, look, the will of the masses is the will of the masses. All right. Eternal Reverberations, similar deal. Although this one is actually extremely justified. They made this content way too difficult to actually get yourself into, and the payout did not really go up accordingly. So people are not running this nearly as much as they have in previous seasons to provide value for people farming the reverberations earlier. And compasses. This is a bit of a finicky one, but you can get bosses to drop compasses. I just don't think it will hit as hard as you would like. But you can definitely try it out. There's also Goddess of Hunting. I only excluded Goddess of Hunting from the initial list of things about boss rushing in Timemark 7 because of point limitations. With more points, that it gets really nice. Or if you can justify using the compass, I wouldn't use the compass till 8s personally. But with more points, Goddess of Hunting gets really appealing. It's potential to duplicate your boss, which triggers all of the boss kill stuff again. And it has some cool gamble drops and some regular drops, but we'll talk about that more when we get to 8. Now, both the strategies I just named, Black Sail and boss rushing, they share a common thread in Timemark 7 in particular. Map speed is a priority over the cards available. This is not due to the fact that the strategies themselves do not care that much about the cards individually, but it's more so that thing I talked about earlier in how Timemark 7 is about fixed drops. And so we go, fixed drops don't need quant, therefore fast map. On the screen, I will pop up a list of, there will be a pop-up of maps, in a map in each region that you should just spam because you can run maps even if they don't have a card on them. You just go, literally just run down the map, killing things, nuking the boss, doing whatever mechanic you put in the map, rinse, repeat. Run them in 7-0s. Because you can actually use those 7-0 shards to run the 7-2 watchers, or the highest tier watcher you can run, but ideally you can run 7-2 when you have to run your star shards, because 7-2s will drop, 7-2 watchers will drop Timemark 8 beacons, which those can then be sold for a couple FE each. So just kind of, pad out the money just a little bit. Every little bit of FE counts right now, but we're trying to get out of this rut. And then my last tip about 7 is just make sure you are actually selling the things that you are farming. Otherwise, you will not realize any of the gains. You're just playing the game to play the game, which is fun, but playing the game to play the game in 8s or playing the game to play the game in profounds, to get out of 7s. This place is terrible. Now we're in Timemark 8. This is where the magic starts to happen. This is where the quant really starts to hit. This is where the drops start to get better. This is where strategies start to open up. And I still don't have nearly enough time to talk about all of the different strategies that I would genuinely actually consider if I were stuck in 8s. So I'm just going to name again a few. 1, I have to mention boss rushing again. It is still generally just one of the more effective things to do, and I would be remiss if I didn't name it. The only difference between an 7 and an 8 is Goddess of Hunting. Goddess of Hunting, as I mentioned previously, is really about, you need those extra points to be able to actually click things in Goddess of Hunting, or to skimp on the cost of compasses because they're kind of expensive. And you really want those benefits. it just spawns more bosses in your map on average and gives the map boss, or it spawns bosses specifically in the boss arena and will give them additional drops. Those additional drops can proc all sorts of things, whether it be FE or certain legendaries such as Ralph's the chest, but that's super rare, so I wouldn't prey on that. But it's just literally just more drops from bosses. We like that. And you can add that on top of the different other stuff. So, just remember all of what I told you about things being really good and bossing before and boss rushing before still applies here because it's boss rushing. Quant doesn't matter that much there. Doesn't matter that much. We'll talk about that piece is going to come up later. The other thing is I want to revisit Black Seal real quick, which because memory scraps are still really strong here. Memory threads are also now viable because whenever you get orange memory threads, they are somewhere between 1.7 and 2 FE each. They come from, thread drops themselves, or from dismantling orange hero memories. Now the overall value of Black Seal is starting to be a little bit more distributed, but it is still going to be scraps and invites are primarily the most consistent, and then orange threads to help out. I feel like orange threads don't get super reliable till you're in profounds personally. But it's not the biggest deal either way. You'll make plenty of money. Now, for a strategy not previously featured in the video already, let's talk about Dream. I'm not going to talk about this mechanic too much in detail because I do have a video where I talk all about this strategy, because if you haven't seen yet my video talking about me making an eternity in 24 hours, this is the strategy, Dream. I didn't do anything super special to it or anything like that, and it's probably the most bare bones strategy I could think of, just because that's how I have fun mapping in this game a lot of the time, is bare bones going down the line. And I have a full video already talking about the strategy in detail. So go over there if you want to actually learn about that. But a quick version of the explanation is that we're doing boss rushing with another fixed drop source on top, that being the Dream Talkings. We're going for Dream Talkings from the boss that spawns in the map, and Dream Talkings from the bubbles we spawn in the nightmare. And you're playing for high rarity bubbles. That's where the kick really hits at. And then you just blast, right? And we go crazy. So, more details are in the video, but just know that Dream is really good, especially right now. Like, Dream Talkings have been holding so well because curses are so expensive. So, you know how that goes. My last one I want to mention in the T8 section, at least as a specific mention, is boss farming, because I think boss farming needs to be highlighted more as a thing that you can do to get yourself out of a rut. Right. Now, of course, you have to know the right rut, and that's why I'm highlighting this one in particular. Keegan, the Dark Surge Great Void boss, is an insanely efficient farm a lot of the time at this point in the season, or even earlier on in the season, for how much he provides at no cost, and most importantly, petless, right? Like, the point of this video is to talk about strategies that are really good with pets. But one of the narratives that goes around a lot with boss farming is that they all require pets to farm. So I want to put the spotlight really quickly on a boss that doesn't. Keegan. He uses the three minor edicts rather from Dark Surge. You do not need Doom at all for T1. That is for T2. And we're talking about tier 1 Keegan, because he dies he just explodes to characters at just around 750 million to a billion DPS, right? Characters that are comfortable in 8s, maybe even 8-1s, but not Traveler ready yet, will absolutely devastate this boss. And that's huge because, well, he's a very reliable kill, and it's a very comfy kill. You maybe don't want to farm him all the time, but I know, like, a lot of the time when we're like eating early season and whatnot, why not pop like 30, 40, 50 Keegans in while I'm eating, quickly nuke him, look over to loot, and sell it while I'm eating and stuff, right? Why not? Out and about, pop up in the phone, blow him up, right? The profit marker for this farm is the Familiar Nexus. It is the Desecration Corrosion material. It is one that allows you to double corrupt items, right? As long as if this thing is 88% of the if 88% of the value of a Familiar Nexus is equal to or greater than the price of 2 runs of T1 Keegan, this fight is guaranteed profitable over an original sample, as it is a 50% drop at tier 1. And if you get that guaranteed profit here, you are really rolling in it, because it just means that any of the other drops you get are pure profit at that point. We love when that happens. Now, where are you actually getting the profit from then, if it's not the Familiar Nexus? It's the gear, but not the boss's actual drops. Tier 1 Keegan's actual drops, kind of whatever, except for like you can corrupt the neck, you can corrode the items to try to hit like luckier stuff. Like Illusory Ocean Silk Chili is a neck that I'm currently wearing on my character, and I paid some pretty good money even for just a single corrode on it. So that's an option, right? But he also drops pre-corroded gear, single and double corroded. So you might do a kill of Keegan, and then on the floor there's a void embankment with corrupted all stats on the floor. This has happened to my friend 2 leagues in a row, by the way, which is absolutely insane. And then he's like, "Holy snap! I could put this on," or "Ooh, that's a couple hundred FE to sell." And that's pure profit, baby. That's where it comes from. That's what makes the strategy worth noting, and it's why I wanted to talk about this real quick. I have some other honorable mentions, which we'll get into in a moment here. I just wanted to really highlight Keegan because it is for people who want to do a little bit of boss farming or something lighter while they're doing whatever to quickly like multiply their money up. I have a couple honorable mentions that I don't have the wherewithal to mention in full in the video. This video will take way too long if I mention literally every mechanic under the sun in it. But for this one, I want to talk about a couple mechanics here. One, cube in 8s is actually fine. I think in 8s though, you need to play for desire cores, which means clicking the node that makes you get significantly more desire cores, but way less clicks on the cube. And while you click almost every cube point, I think you would have to avoid gambling a little bit. This is up to you, right? The average value on gambling is obviously net neutral. You gamble if you want to. I would just personally not, because desire cores are really expensive and I would like to sell them for money. Related to that, by the way, the actual boss for desire cores is also pretty farmable, but I think that's one that you would want to farm while you're stuck trying to get to profounds, not when you're stuck getting to traveler. And that he drops, what is it, it's a 50-50 drop on the tier 2 entry ticket, which means right now at current prices it's not 100% profitable, but fallen starlights are so overpriced that I think it's worth it. There's also noteworthy mentions for things like Sandlord, and there's a like Sandlord is a pretty noteworthy mention. Canvas in 8s is like at this level, like orange paper is going to start to be barely playable. Very worth considering, right? I'm not going to tell you to do it or not to do it, just tell you it's worth considering now. Arcana, I've heard starting in 8s is fine. Beacon farming in 8, whether it be through resonance conversion off of bosses or via other methods. I would probably do resonance conversion via bosses, but both options are also like pretty decent in 8s. Might just need a little bit of compasses, which is why I didn't include it in the initial thing, because everything here so far does not require compasses. There's a lot of things that you can do at this level to really get yourself some money to get over the hump. And you'll just have to stay tuned to a future video to actually see what to do with all that money, which is why you should subscribe. Subscribe and supports the channel, all that good stuff. But also you'll just actually know when I post the next video, especially if you put the notifications on, right? Now I have some last tips. Some errant little tips here and there that don't really make sense to fit in any particular section, so I had made them their own section. One, running unrolled maps is not a real thing in this state of the game. It's like an old strat that's been popularized a lot to run maps that are completely unrolled and just run straight to the boss and pretty much only care about the fixed drops. That shit only works in T7s. Like in Timemark 7, I think you need to do that just to like get through things quickly and save yourself time and money, because you're not really making that much money off of that investment. But I think the second you start Timemark 8s, if you can run maps with a little bit of resonance in them already, you should be. Quant is so strong, right? Because the idea behind not rolling implies that you are only getting money from fixed drops ever. And once you start in Timemark 8, that's not entirely true anymore, especially with the outlaw mechanic. If you actually want to run it, like I said, 8s are kind of valuable for outlaw if you can roll your maps up, because now the quant that you're getting from that is really getting in there, and then you're dropping several 5 stacks of FE, a couple compasses here and there. And that's really due to the quant. You're killing so many monsters, you might as well have some quant on your map. And this applies even without running outlaw, because again, like running a Demi-Man village is 300 monsters killed on average, roughly 300 monsters killed, plus whatever boss is. You don't want no drops from any of them? All right, bro. Uh, I'm telling you, it's worth considering, right? Other major notes. Make sure you're actually having fun with the strategy you're playing. This is the most important thing. I kind of highlighted this in the Eternity video when I talked about how that strategy and the fact that I chose to do it to farm an Eternity was literally just because I was having fun. I love Dream. That's the type of thing that makes me want to play all day, every day. And that's the type of feeling you're going to need just because, that helps you make some money. The game just feels better, feels more efficient, is more efficient when you're having fun. And as I said earlier, there are so many different ways to make money, but I can't name them all in one video. Just know that, it's not going to hurt you too much to use an extra tree to like try some stuff out. Just make sure you have some money backed up so you can quickly get yourself back on your feet if you try something and it crashes and burns, right? Otherwise, try some shit out, bro. It ain't going to be that bad, I promise. And that wraps up all of my thoughts on some quick ways to make money, some ways to make money while stuck in Timemark 8, trying to get 2 Traveler or 2 Profound. If you can think of any strategies that I didn't name that you really want to shout out, drop them in the comments down below. If you have any questions, also drop them in the comments. I will see them and get to them, all of that stuff. If you want to, just hang out or ask more questions, or you want them more, you like that live functionality, I do stream. I stream in the evenings. Like evenings to nighttime period, really, for Americans. That link is in the description, and I have a Discord where people, you can come ask questions there. You can connect with the community, do the Wordle with us, and all that other stuff. Really been wrapping up that Wordle nonsense. I saw there's a PoE that was added in there for like PoE gems. I gotta get it. I gotta get involved in that too. But all that said, thank you guys for watching. If this is helpful to you in any way, shape, or form, like, comment, helps the video out, all that good stuff. Moving around to other people who might need this information because maybe it's not for you, but for your friend, they need to be sent some of these things. And remember, in the description, I did put some like void chart codes for you guys to work with. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.